Greetings. Let me tell you a story about a little boy.
What the fuck?
A little boy who, when in elementary school, liked to get sick on purpose, but his parents allowed him to stay home. Now why is that, you may ask? Well, to play his favorite video games, of course. One of which was a hit franchise of Devil May Cry. Oh, whoops. Give me 1 second. Anyway, where was I? Today we're taking a look at this thing right here. Now you may ask, why DMC3 in particular when there's 5 DMC games in total? Well, come here. Well, first of all, DMC3 is the first game chronologically speaking. Second of all, if you ask any sane DMC fan, they will tell you that DMC3 is the best game in the series by far. And finally, because I want to. Cool. Do you enjoy weapons? Do you enjoy big weapons? Did you ever think you could use a magical greatsword in the same combination with the boy's anti-tank rifle?
Hi, my name is...
Shut the fuck up. Well, now you can.
What do you mean by that?
Introducing a game where you can use big guns and big swords to kill big monsters with a chat protagonist who gets off to the level of uninterrupted pain that he inflicts upon his less fortunate foes. Join Dante on his adventures to find out truth about the family he lost, chase women with malicious intent, acquire a huge arsenal of weapons, use it to beat women with malicious intent, explore demonic ruins, and respect women with malicious intent. Don't forget to subscribe for more cringy content and comment down your favorite siege battle of the 13th century. Don't know any? Well, your favorite Tic Tac flavor will do. Devil May Cry 1 was released in August 23 in 2001 on PlayStation 2, and it was originally meant to be a Resident Evil game, which explains the setting being all abandoned castles. DMC is a very good game for its time, but to be honest, it didn't age very well in most aspects. Then DMC 2 was released in 2003 with the new lead designer Hideaki Itsuno, and it was a disaster. It was really bad in terms of almost every aspect of the game. The controls are pure jank, the writing is laughable, and the enemy AI is non-existent. It almost seemed like the series was never going to get a sequel, until Hideaki decided to redeem himself by making DMC3 in 2005, which became a soft reboot of sorts as it starts from scratch and focuses on much younger Dante, and starts before he even realizes his full potential. So you may ask, how successful was Hideaki's redemption? First things first, there are multiple ways of playing the game. If you're a console player, getting and playing DMC3 should be easy. All you gotta do is buy the game in a respective store for a respective console of choice. If you're a PC player like me, the best way of getting the best version of the game is buying Devil May Cry HD Collection from Steam, which features the first 3 games in modern resolution. Why buy the HD Collection and not the cheaper standalone Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition?
Shut the fuck up, you nasty bitch.
Because the standalone Special Edition is a garbage port. Trust me on that one. It's not necessary to play on a controller, but I also strongly recommend it. Trust me, I'm a keyboard player through and through. I even played Dark Souls and Mortal Kombat on a keyboard, but DMC is that one game that I just have to play on a controller for the best experience. But keep in mind that it's still entirely optional and the keyboard can work. The game opens with a woman giving you a quick backstory on the origin of the protagonist, while 2 K-pop cosplayers are battling it out in the rain in the background, which ends in a first-degree homicide. Once you start a new game, you are met with an unusual decision of gold and yellow. Believe it or not, they're not asking for your correct pronouns. This is related to the life system in the game. You see, in the game, if you die, you have to start the entire level over. But throughout the game, you will find those orbs, and once you die, if you have any of those orbs, you will be met with a decision for a second chance. If you pick gold in the beginning, then those orbs will revive you where you stand at full health. But if you pick yellow, then those orbs will only revive you 1 checkpoint prior. So you're basically picking how you want your life system to work, with gold making the game much easier. And yes, if you pick gold, I will proceed to laugh at your lack of self-confidence and astronomically tiny wiener. You're then asked to pick a difficulty, and you're only allowed to pick between easy and normal to begin with. If you're a hardcore gamer like myself, don't be offended at this, because trust me, even normal difficulty isn't easy for the first playthrough. Because whoopsie, I forgot to mention that DMC3 is actually a very difficult game. Definitely the most difficult in the series by far. All other difficulty options are unlocked through playing the game. As you start the new game, you're thrown some time prior to the intro sequence, where Dante walks out of the shower half naked, probably after a hot session of TikTok viewing. He's then prank called, eats pizza, and is stalked by skinny Joe Rogan, who invites himself in, doxes Dante, and proceeds to chimp out. Dante is understandably rather confused by the current state of affairs, and as any normal person in such a situation, proceeds to eat his pizza.
about to blow.
But his dramatic ASMR is interrupted by Ku Klux Klan's arch nemesis, the BBC, as they penetrate his every hole with comically large scythes. Alas, they fail to research his bio, as he is not a perked up white boy, but race mixed with a demon, which does not end very well for them. Dante, paying no mind to the skinwalkers, proceeds to turn on some hot tunes.
This party's getting crazy. Let's rock.
This is of course very bad news for the intruders, as Dante begins to dispose of the enemy in the most ridiculously stylish way imaginable, which he clearly gets off to, by the way. And just as the intro ends, you probably realize that you are in for a fucking ride. After eliminating all of the skinwalkers in and outside of your store, he bears witness to a very sussy phallus appendage emerge from the ground, and on top of it is his twin brother, Virgil, who after years of agonizing solitude, returns with a new skill he developed: circumcision. And so Dante ventures forth on his quest to become a verified kinslayer. More on the plot later. But the game isn't all dick and no balls. You progress through the game, go through a variety of arenas, story elements, puzzles, and boss fights, all while curb stomping demons on your way. Majority of the game has you constantly fighting hordes of demons in the most fabulous way possible. Yes, the major aspect of the game is to maintain a combo meter mid-battle, which is harder than you think. The higher your combo level, the more currency the enemies drop on death, as well as an increased chance of dropping health. If you get hit at least once, your combo meter gets reset to 0, so you have to constantly avoid damage while being as aggressive as possible. You also cannot spam attacks, as the combo meter requires the diversity of moves in order to fill up. If you repeat the same attacks in a row, the meter will start to drain. Dante has two types of weapons, ranged and melee, and is allowed to carry 2 of each at one time. You start off with your trusty Rebellion sword and a pair of custom-built pistols with unlimited ammo, known as Ebony and Ivory. These remain to be amongst the most useful weapons in the game, and you are very likely to have them equipped throughout the entire game. You unlock other melee weapons by defeating bosses and ranged weapons by solving puzzles. The game also has a style system, starting you off with 4 styles to choose from. All these styles do is decide what your circle button does. If you pick Trickster, for example, you unlock the ability to dodge and move more swiftly and effectively. If you pick Swordmaster, you have a whole heap of new moves for your melee weapons. If you pick Gunslinger, you have new moves for your ranged weapons, and if you pick Royal Guard, you can basically block and parry. All these styles can be upgraded up to level 3, each with their benefits as they drastically affect your playstyle. You spend acquired currency on unlocking new moves, weapon upgrades, and items. The game clearly shows that it doesn't like it when you buy consumable items, as it makes each item more expensive with each purchase, reaching Paradox Games' level of price tags, and also penalizes your score heavily. As mentioned previously, if you die, there are no checkpoints. You will be forced to restart the level, unless you have gold orbs, of course. The combat has a lot of depth, as the enemy roster is huge and each come with their own counters and solutions. DMC3 has a very strong emphasis on sound design, where each attack both you and the enemy makes has a very distinct sound effect, which you will learn relatively quick. For every attack enemy makes, they make it clear with its dedicated sound, giving the player enough time to react. Since each attack player makes also has a distinct sound of Dante moaning in pleasure, it makes it easier to make combos by listening to the last attack you did and knowing what to follow it up with. The game will also punish the player a lot, which will effectively bully the player into learning and adapting faster by picking a preferred playstyle. Spend 20 minutes exploring the map and finding secrets before the boss battle? Great! How did the boss battle go? Well, too bad. After the beginning of the level with you, the game does not care about your feelings, as they insultingly remind you that easy mode is now a thing when you die a lot, which makes finally beating that boss for the first time just that much more satisfying. The combat is of course the deepest and the most thought out aspect of the game, as there are numerous ways of fighting. You of course can be a bitch and spam attacks, be lazy, eat hot chip and lie. The game in return will make sure to laugh at you by giving you a garbage score as they monitor each and every move you make. This is a classic example when games used to reward players for getting better, which gives you a reason to try harder. Devil May Cry 3 doesn't teach you to get good, they just give you all the tools you need and make the game progressively more and more difficult, like the good old days. Throughout the game you will run into a lot of secret areas and missions, where you complete certain challenges to earn blue orb shards. Collecting 4 of these increases your maximum health. These are always difficult and fun to beat. The game also has a lot of unlockable content. For example, beating the game on normal unlocks hard difficulty, beating the game on hard difficulty unlocks very hard difficulty, as well as Dante Must Die difficulty, and that one is very self-explanatory. Then you unlock Heaven and Hell mode, which basically makes both you and the enemies killable with one hit. With every difficulty unlock, you also unlock costumes for Dante, classic style. The level design is just incredible and diverse, with a ton of memorable locations that are just not like anything else. Each location has a unique color, theme, and feel to it. A diversity of environments is also complemented with how diverse the enemy roster and the bosses are. Everything is just so fucking colorful. The soundtrack is by far the best in the series. Fight me. You can always rate a soundtrack on how memorable it is, because if it is memorable, that means it's both unique and awesome. The boss tracks differ greatly from each other, each being stylized according to the fat bastard you're fighting, and are probably the most memorable thing everybody remembers when thinking of DMC3 soundtrack. The series has never came close to replicating the glory of those soundtracks in DMC5 in my opinion. Well, not counting. But DMC3 has plenty of underrated tracks that get slept on hard, that being the cutscene tracks. As you saw in the intro, the story is fucking crazy, it's macabre. But believe it or not, they do a perfect blend of cheesy what the fuck Dante and actually being serious at the same time. In fact, the story's seriousness reflects Dante's character. He starts off being punky, careless, only going along with the plot because he has nothing better to do. But throughout the story, he gets more and more invested with what is going on, especially because of his run-in with Mary, a girl who is going through a similar family crisis as him. The story evolves into a relationship build-up between the two, but even more so between him and his twin brother Virgil. Dante's quest to teach Virgil a lesson shifts into Dante wanting to put Virgil back on the right track and save him from the anger and vengeance that consumes him. And the soundtrack greatly plays along into that theme. I love the Devil May Cry franchise, and I love both DMC4 and 5. I think the DMC5 has drastically improved over the gameplay formula of DMC3, and currently stands as the best game gameplay-wise, but the same cannot be said about other elements. All the previously discussed points combined is what in my opinion makes DMC3 the best game in the series. Dante has a purpose. He lost his mother, he lost his father, and he thought that he lost his brother too. But once he finds out that his brother is still alive, despite his new pro-demon political agenda, he still does everything in his power not to lose him again. The sequels really downplayed that aspect. Sure, 4 carries on his grave, but in DMC5 they turned this emotional feud into just a friendly rivalry. Dante hasn't seen Virgil for like what, 20 years now, thinking that he was dead or enslaved in the demon realm. Well, now that he's back, Dante's just like, don't know when to give up! Come on, this is a far cry from how Dante and Virgil relationship was in DMC3. Virgil went from I will enslave the whole world just to prove that I can be just like daddy, to
if I beat Nero, then by default, I beat you. Agreed, Dante.
Congratulations. You are the biggest pieces of shit that I have ever met.
Same can be said about Lady. She is very young and naive and innocent. She wants to avenge her dead mother, who was the only family she knew until her father took everything away from her. And yet when she has her gun pointing at him, he manages to convince her that he was manipulated by Virgil to do it. And she believes him, because he's the last bit of family that she has left.
Well, we have something in common. I have a dysfunctional family too.
And what would you know about family? You're a demon. This is my father. My family. This was all supposed to end by my hand.
And here's Lady in DMC4.
Oh my god!
Yeah, they just turned her into background fan service by giving her big teeth, taking away any semblance of personality. I can go on forever why I prefer the third game in terms of soundtrack, level design, enemy design, and the rest of the story, but you get the picture. I think the Devil May Cry 3 aged perfectly fine, and is the perfect entry to starting the series. It remains as one of my most favorite games of all time, and definitely a game that I can replay 100 of times over, which cannot be said the same for DMC5, probably purely because of this piece of shit right here, and the missions where you're forced to play as him. Play DMC3, 4, and 5. Devil May Cry 2 is garbage, and 1 is a bit too outdated for the modern player. All in all, if you want to shoot a little spider with the boys AT rifle, this game's for you. And this concludes the video. Thank you so much for watching this cringy review, and let me know what other games you'd like me to take a look at next. Now have a good one.